come away, O human child, to the waters in the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand.
We are travelling to Lough Gur, a small lake in East Limerick's Golden Vale that is the beating heart of this county's ancient past. No other walk in Ireland will unveil so full an account of Irish history as a stroll along the banks of this small loch, which has been inhabited continuously for over 6,000 years. Aubrey Burrell describes its distant past as follows.
Here, where low-crowned limestone hills curve through the loch basin, prehistoric people settled on the well-drained, sheltered soils. Red deer wandered in the trees, alert for the wolf and the bears and for the barking of the hunters' dogs. At the forest edges, where the land had been cleared, white beam, hawthorn and cherry blossomed, white as quartz in the springtime. Through the misting rains, the sunshine and the winds of centuries, the slow life continued like a stone at the water's edge, while the years drifted by.
Lough Gur is the jewel in a lush pastureland of poets and fairies whose mythology is buried in its place names. The small village of Knockany is here, derived from the Gaelic Knock-Anya or Anya's Hill. Anya is a major goddess in the Celtic pantheon, daughter of the Dagda, and on some accounts the granddaughter of the great mother goddess Danu. Anya is sometimes a moon goddess, sometimes a sun goddess, always the bright one and the queen of the fairies. The peasants held that Anya dwelt in the fairy hill at Knockany, about 3 miles southwest of the lake. They gathered every St. John's night, June 23rd, to view the moon and exorcise the land of witches. These fire ceremonies, surviving from an ancient agricultural cult, were abandoned a century or more ago. But here in nearby Lough Gur, you can walk the 100 steps to the fairy woods and find the house of her son, Garrod Irla.
In the past, no minstrel, piper or poet would willingly spend a night within a mile of Lough Gur's shore. Such was its fearful reputation and potency. Even to fall asleep in daytime on its banks was considered among them to be reckless folly. The sense of danger arose from the belief that the original poets of Lough Gur were either descended from or were demigods, like Garrod Irla, able to draw human poets out of their depths.
This is the view from the hill of Knockadune, where the demigod poets practiced their art. The hill was an island in the middle of the lake until the 19th century, when drainage reduced the lake by 8 feet in depth, resulting in its current horseshoe shape, with Knockadune on its eastern side. Knockadune is noted as the greatest concentration of Neolithic structures on any single site that is known in Ireland. Early Neolithic farmers settled here, bringing cereals, ceramics and cattle from the Bible lands. Their black hair, brown eyes and dark skin do not fit today's image of what being Irish is, but the stone monuments they left us dominate some of our most recognisable landscapes. The foundations of several Stone Age huts and circles can be seen here. Circle K, for example, consisting of 2 concentric rings, has a diameter of 31 metres. In its centre there was found evidence of a rectangular building outlined by rock-cut post holes. This may suggest that Circle K was a domestic or a defensive structure, and not a ritual stone circle such as seen elsewhere around the lake. They were likely made of wattle and daub with thatched roofs. Near Circle K were found the remains of 9 children and 1 adult woman who may have died during childbirth. The largest megaliths of the Neolithic period are the passage tombs, stone-covered tombs with a passageway to an inner chamber, which is illuminated by the sun at various points on the celestial calendar. The gleaming white quartz facade of New Grange in the Boyne Valley points to the winter solstice. As the technical know-how to build such megaliths dwindled, they became associated with the giants of Irish mythology: Lugh, the sun god; Dagda, the good god; and other members of the Tuatha De Danann, or tribe of Danu. Danu is a river goddess. She is the triple goddess who embodies the phases of life: comely maiden, pregnant woman, old hag, and she is symbolized by the triple spiral on the entrance stone at Newgrange. As we move into the Bronze Age, passage tombs are replaced by smaller wedge tombs. We will visit one, but first to the megaliths of the Bronze Age, the stone circles. The largest of these, also one of the oldest, is Grange Stone Circle, which has stood on the banks of Lough Gur for 4,200 years. At Grange there are 113 stones butted together contiguously, and the entire structure, 45 metres in diameter, sits atop a 4-foot-high embankment. No human remains were found during excavations, but there were the remains of many cattle, Ireland's medieval currency. A large hole was discovered at the circle's centre, suggesting that a pole and rope was used to attain the accurate circular shape. Grange Stone Circle has various alignments, but it is the summer solstice on June 21st which splits the short passage of entrance stones and passes to a V-shape formed by the meeting of 2 rocks directly opposite. In times past, this was just 2 days before fire ceremonies were held on Agne's Hill. The Celts played their horns here, in homage to the changing of the light.
The largest stone of Grange, also known as the Lias, is the 55-ton behemoth to the north of the entryway Ronach Crom Dubh, or the Staff of Black Crom. Extending 5 feet underground, it was dragged from its source around a mile away. Crom Dubh is thought to be the stooped black man who in legend first brought wheat into Ireland, bending under its weight. He was associated with harvest celebrations well into the 19th century, August 1st, the beginning of autumn or Lunasa. But his winter descent into the underworld was deemed darker in a later Christian Ireland. So he also became a Halloween or Samhain god who slay entire armies if they did not perform proper sacrifice. He became the serpent god slain by St. Patrick. Next to the massive stone is a smaller stack of stones said to represent Ethna, the corn child. She was the fairy mistress of the dark Crom Dubh.
From Grange, you can see a smaller stone circle in the next field, Circle C. And there are early accounts of yet another circle here, Circle D, even bigger than Grange. It is nowhere to be seen today, and according to legend it was taken to England by Merlin the Wizard and used to build Stonehenge. Wedge tombs, such as this one at Lough Gur, are typical of Bronze Age Ireland. An influx of fairer-skinned invaders from the Pontic steppes of modern-day Russia brought blue eyes, blonde hair, and an ability to work with gold and bronze. Excavations of this Bronze Age wedge tomb in 1938 unearthed at least 8 adults, some fragments of a cremated skull, and 4 child burials. Radiocarbon tests have determined that the human remains date from around the period 2400 to 1800 BCE. The entire skeleton of a young ox was found interred outside the tomb, with all the bones intact. The position of the skeletal head, which was bent back over the neck, suggests that the ox was sacrificed by having its throat slit while it lay on its side with its legs bound. A crannog is an artificial fortified island constructed in a lake or marsh, originally found in prehistoric Ireland and Scotland. The Bolin Island crannog at Lough Gur was constructed sometime between 500 and 1000 CE by a nearby farming community. There are 7 crannog settlements around Lough Gur, out of some 1200 discovered in Ireland. They were in common use in the Iron Age, which in Ireland is the age of the Celts. The Celts arrived on horseback from Central Europe, bringing our Gaelic language, our pantheon of Celtic gods, and impossibly beautiful jewellery. Ireland is beyond the western outposts of the Roman Empire, one of the last black pools where Celtic culture survives. But the Celts in their day spread as far east as China, just like the great Irish elk, the largest deer that ever lived, but lives no more. Ireland quickly converted to Christianity after St. Patrick's arrival in 432. As the Roman Empire breathed its last, and Europe descended into the Dark Ages, so Ireland began its Golden Age. These small dwellings, seen beneath the stair to the fairy woods, are from the Christian period. The round foundations have seen them acquire the local name, the Spectacles. While there was evidence of Neolithic occupation here too, the ruins visible today at this site just above the visitor centre are from the early medieval period. Local tradition asserts that the famed County Sligo poet harper Thomas O'Connellan is buried in an unmarked grave here at New Church, or Temple Nua. According to some, the goddess Anya mounted a rock atop Knockadune and wailed her keening when the poet's funeral procession passed from the castle to the cemetery. Local poet Owen Bresnan, also buried here, composed a song about the ruins of Temple Nua.
Oh, I long to see the churchyard by Lough Gur's romantic shore, where the shamrocks and the ivy ever grow, where the wild dove and the raven, like protecting spirits, soar, o'er the green graves of silent Temple Nua.
This is Carrig Alia. There is evidence on the hill of settlers since Neolithic times, but the forts we see today are young for Lough Gur, but 1 millennia old. The walls of these massive stone forts were once up to 7 feet high, each of them topped with a palisade. The most interesting find during excavations was a hoard of Danish silver, suggesting the presence of, or at least commerce with, the Vikings. The Normans had a stronger presence here on Lough Gur. Norman Black Castle guards one side of the hill of Knockadune. There is reputed to be a lake-sized version of Atlantis, a sunken city beneath the waters of Lough Gur. When the surface of the lake is smooth, one may see from a boat the drowned city, its walls and castles.
There's a tree inside, in the lake, and there's a green cloak over it, or a brat una. And there's a woman under it keeping watch at it. And the water is all dropping. This woman is there under it. And she's knitting. And she's keeping watch under the green cloak.
Many of the stories of the enchanted Lough Gur centre on the life and legends of Gerald, or Garrett Fitzgerald, the third Earl of Desmond. He died or disappeared in 1398. He is known locally as Garrod Irla, or Earl Gerald, the son of the goddess Anya. From his mother he gained his powers of sorcery.
Geroid lives there in the Underlake world to this day, awaiting the time of his normal return to the world of men. But once every 7 years, on clear moonlight nights, he emerges temporarily when the Lough Gur peasantry sees him as a phantom mounted on a phantom white horse, leading a phantom or fairy cavalcade across the lake and land.
Garrod must continue this until the silver shoes of his horse wear out. The historic Garrod was the Chief Justice for Ireland and composed poetry in both Irish and French.
Geroid, son of an invader, a foreigner, was taken to the heart of the Lough Gur myth cycle and installed there by local people as an enchanted magician, a periodic rider, a lost leader whose return is awaited, and a feared king of the fairy host. I am the son of the king of the Norman fairies, and my name is Geroid Irla, was a verse still sung in County Limerick in 1879. Ah, cruel ones, leave me alone now, while I murmur a little and ponder the history here in the stone now. Then away and away I will wander, and measure the minds of the flowers, and gaze on the meadow mice wary, and number their days and their hours. You're wasting away, little fairy.